Kombucha making part 2. So the last video I shared, I was showing you how to use the scobies and the tea and the sugar. And so after you've let your tea sit with the sugar and the kombucha scobies and the tea for about, I usually leave it for about 10 days or so. And some people, I think it's like 9 to 12 days or something like that. But you can kind of smell when they start getting pretty vinegary, and you don't want them to get too vinegary because then it just kind of tastes like apple cider vinegar. So what I've done since I pulled the scobies out, I'll show you. So those are the 2 scobies, and I put a little bit of the tea in there just to keep those scobies happy. And then this is these are the 2 jars that I removed the scobies from, and then I added herbs and rose petals to this batch. So the reason for the herbs and the rose petals is because they are going to sit and ferment with this tea. I did add probably about a tablespoon or so of coconut sugar to these before I added the herbs. So the reason that I added the sugar is that it keeps the fermentation kind of high, and it keeps it bubbly, a little more bubbly. Once this tea has steeped with the little bit of sugar, coconut sugar, the herbs, and the rose petals for about 3 or 4 days, I will then filter out the herbs and the rose petals by pouring the liquid into these mason jars. These mason jars right here. So because I ended up doing a little more than a half a gallon in 2-gallon jars, I'm going to have probably about 5 mason jars filled with the kombucha. Then I will put a tight lid on each of those mason jars. They need to be filled up as much as possible. You don't want to leave hardly any room at the top. And then you tighten the lids down pretty tight, and you leave those for about 3 or 4 more days. What they're going to do during that 3 or 4 days is that's when they start creating the bubble, the bubbly stuff, the stuff that tastes like carbonation. And I'll show you that as the 3rd part of the kombucha videos. I know this seems like a lot of steps and a lot of information, so if you have any questions about making kombucha, please reach out to me. I'm happy to share. It's actually a lot easier than it seems, but you've got to kind of get the system down and the whole process down, and once you do, it's pretty simple. It takes maybe an hour for the first part because you're boiling water for tea and waiting for that to cool and all of that. And then it takes like 15 or 20 minutes for each other part. So total, it's taking about 2 weeks, and your part of it is only about an hour and a half worth of actual work. So good luck. And again, let me know if you have any questions.